the Cross of Valour. It's the civilian equivalent of the Victoria Cross. It's an elite group. There's only 5 of them. Members of our most exclusive and, in a way, crazy club. Crazy because they've done things that you or I wouldn't consider in our wildest dreams. They're not stuntmen or daredevils, just ordinary people who've risked their own lives to save others, again and again. They are simply heroes.
And here I am today with the lead singer of In Excess before me, and one of Australia's greatest heroes, Mark Donaldson, following me. So my life's been a bit of a journey. At 18 years of age, I was a shearer in a small town called Cumnock in the central west of New South Wales. Left the shearing sheds of Cumnock and went to King's Cross. Within a few months, I'm at the aftermath of the Hilton bombing. My life and my environment had changed dramatically. I then followed a path into detective work, working at Darlinghurst. Met some great people, some not so great people, including Roger Rogerson, who I worked with for a short time before Roger and I didn't quite see eye to eye. In the Special Breaking Squad, responsible for taking on some of Sydney's most notorious gangsters and criminals, one of whom was Neddy Smith. I was part of the team that arrested Neddy the morning he was about to do an armoured car robbery at the Botany Council. Apart from all the very exciting things I did in the police force, there were some challenging moments. I think one of the most challenging moments was at Crescent Head on the mid-north coast of New South Wales in 1995. A lady had rung up and said, my ex-boyfriend has graffitied my car, no big deal, and he's threatened to kill me, a little bit more serious. What she didn't tell the police was that he also had a .223 calibre semi-automatic rifle, and he used to dress up in camouflage gear and go and practice in the bush as though he was a commando. So a gunfight erupted. Bob Spears was shot in the head and dropped to the ground dead. Pete's trying to call for help on the radios, and the radios didn't work. And I have to say, to see the sight of a police officer dead in uniform laying in the middle of the street was a pretty horrific sight. But when I found Pete's body, it was a bit different. Pete being a mate of mine, it really got to me personally. And that was a time that my psychological health started to deteriorate quite rapidly. And the rescue of the child was probably the straw that broke the camel's back as far as my mental health was concerned. My life went into a rapid downward spiral of mental breakdown and abuse of alcohol and destruction of my body. Being like most blokes, we tend to mask these things pretty well, and my wife Deb had no great idea of what was actually going on. Things got to such a state where I became suicidal. And I can assure you, when you become to that state where you have these overwhelming feelings of hopelessness and absolute worthlessness, and there's no prospect that you will ever get better, the easy option, or the most appealing option, is to take your own life. So one morning while my wife was sleeping, my baby girl was sleeping, I kissed them goodbye, went to work, got my gun out, the intention of going to shoot myself. A workmate walked in, saw something wasn't quite right, he got my gun and they took me home. That night I was before the crisis counsellor at the hospital, and I just broke down, just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. Deb really had no idea what was going on, because she saw this bloke who had been a rugby player, a rugby coach, a basketball coach, a pillar of the society in Coffs Harbour, lauded as a hero for saving this kid, and here he is, just a complete and broken man. And when I told the counsellor about these nightmares I was having, she said to Deb, we've got to lock Al up, we've got to schedule him in the mental health unit. And Deb said, absolutely not. You're not taking my husband. But I got a phone call one day to say, congratulations, Al, you've been discharged. I said, I beg your pardon. I've never applied for a discharge. I said, not our problem. All the very best to you. That was it, career over. So then it was like, okay, Al, what are you going to do now? At 40 years of age, ex-cop. And I had to reinvent myself and try and make some career and some life for myself, to try and find my sense of worth again. And I just didn't know what to do. And about a year after that video was produced, I was speaking to a psychiatrist when things weren't going really well again. He said, Al, what is it you really want to do? And I said, I want to get my boat and sail across the oceans. He said, well, why don't you just go and do that? So I came home and Deb said, "Oh, how'd you go?" He said, "Yeah, pretty good." What was the advice? He said, "Oh, we've got to get a boat and sail across the oceans." Right. And for me, who'd had this lifelong goal of being on a boat sailing across the oceans, it was so important to me. So then we came home and I started trawling the internet, looking for boats, and I found this boat. And it was just the perfect boat that I knew that we could do this. We could take our family and we'd go and sail. We spent 3 weeks planning our 72-mile voyage across the English Channel. We were really powerful sailors. So I said to Deb, "What do you think about sailing back to Australia?" And she said, thinking the kids will say no, she's gone, "Yeah, great idea. Let's do that." So we put the proposition to the kids and they've gone, "Absolutely, yeah, great." Deb's gone, "Oh no, what have I let myself in for this time?" It was a chance to change the course of our lives. So what did we do? We had to analyse all the risks involved. And there were plenty. We were talking about risking our lives in the middle of the ocean. Thousands of miles from anywhere where no help could come to us. The responsibility is also with you. You will have to share the responsibility. And you will have to take the step up to be the captain of that ship when you're on watch. We had to develop the confidence in each other and we had to develop the belief in each other that we could do it. So we sat down and we planned and we analysed, we discussed, we argued. And I said, "What's the most important thing that's got to change?" And they all said, "You, Dad." I said, "Why?" They said, "Because you are a shocking captain. You just yell at us, you tell us what to do, you don't listen to us, and if you don't change, we're not going." My leadership style had to change dramatically. 3,000 miles ahead of us was the Caribbean, and the big Atlantic swells started to roll in and the wind started to pick up. And I thought, here we are. I am sailing my boat across an ocean. My sense of worth started to increase. All I wanted was to get my family across there safe and my family to say we would do that again. We got back to Australia in October 2010 and we had sailed 16,000 nautical miles over 19 months. And my sense of worth was the greatest it had ever been in my life. What is it that you think is one of the most powerful moments in your life? In August this year, my father was diagnosed with duodenal cancer and given a very short time to live. He wanted to have Father's Day with his 3 sons. The following morning, Dad collapsed in my arms and we had to take him to hospital, and he knew that going back to hospital meant that his days were limited. I was there with Dad for the last 4 days of his life, and I saw him slowly but surely die. Today, I would like you to leave this room. I want you to go home and realise every single second of your life and every single breath you take is critically important. And please, I implore you, do not waste one breath or 1 second, and go and do the things you really want to do.
Given what you've been through, to hell and back, would you do it again tomorrow?
Yep.